All right, guys. So welcome to the Predliner Webcast, where we talk about the best team in the Central Division, the Nashville Predators. I'm Mark Harris, editor at Predlines.com. I'm joined by my staff writer Daniel Lavender down here, all the way up in Milwaukee. How's it going, Daniel?
Good.
I'm also joined by Cutler Klein, as always, another staff writer at Predlines with us. So yeah, as I said, the Nashville Predators are good at hockey. They're sitting atop of the Central Division. It feels good. It's been really fun to watch. It's been a blast, really. Obviously, we're only 14 games into the season, but that's about a sixth of the way through. So, the more games get under our belt, sitting on top of the Central, I think, playoffs, all that stuff will peak in. But obviously, it's still really early. Sorry for not having a couple episodes the past couple weeks. We're all college students or riders, and we got life to deal with. But we're trying our best here. But it's glad to be back. And yeah, so the Predators, they just entered their CMA Fest road trip as they do every season. It was 6 games. They finished it with a 4-2 record, which I'll take that every day of the week. It started off with some good play in Edmonton, who they were actually going into that game. They had won 3 in a row after a really really crappy start to the season, and so getting that win in Edmonton was a big one, 4-1, and after that, a loss to Calgary 4-3, a win in Vancouver, a loss to Winnipeg, a win to Dallas, and a win in St. Louis, which was, I think, definitely the marquee win of that road trip after seeing them snap a 7-game win streak for the Blues. So, and then there's this guy named Philip Forsberg. He's been playing pretty well. And a guy named Pecorini has been playing pretty well too. But what are kind of some things that stuck out to y'all for that road trip? Obviously a big success. Definitely take the 8 out of 10 points, or 8 of 12 points there.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing that I saw was compared to the first couple weeks of the season, the players looked like they were more accustomed to the new system. Through the first couple weeks, they were winning games. They won basically all of their games, but it looked awkward. It looked really, really choppy. It looked like it almost looked like they were still skating in practice, trying to get the system going. But over these past few weeks, I've seen it's been way more fluid, well, a lot more, even more speed, if that's even possible, and it's just been a lot more fun to watch. It's a lot less, oh, it's good, but it looks weird doing it, and but they pulled it off. If I remember correctly, last year's CMA road trip was abysmal. Like, I couldn't wait for it to end, and this year they pull off 4-2. Only losses coming to Calgary, who they haven't beaten at all. Well, they lost in shootout to them at first, but then they lose to Winnipeg, who, by the way, they're good.
Yeah,
Winnipeg has looked good. I've never uttered those words ever before, but Winnipeg looks good. If they can get some more solid goals out of Andre Pavlik, they can string together a few more wins, because right now they're winning a lot of tight games, which can work for a little while, but once you face some high octane offenses, you're going to need some solid goaltending.
yeah, definitely. What about you, Daniel? What kind of stuck out?
How good is Philip Forsberg? I mean, it's been unbelievable to watch him this season. Last year, he had his little bit of chances here and there to do stuff in Nashville, and he was, again and again, the most requested person. When are we going to see him in Nashville? When are we going to see him when he was doing stuff in Milwaukee? He looks so confident this year in everything he does, and he had at least 2 goals where you have to just keep watching the replay again and
Yeah,
again because the release of it is too quick to watch it in live action. You need to see the replay literally just to see him get the wrist shot off. And even his drop-off assist to James Neal, I
oh
think in the
man,
Blues game, was he can do everything right now, and it's just a
Yeah.
confidence thing with him. It just I don't know if he can hold up the points per game stuff, but I sure hope that people can stop the whole name recognition stuff of Jonathan Drouin being just the kind of gifted, rookie of the year, and people start looking at Philip Forsberg seriously because he's been unbelievable.
yeah, he really has. Through the whole stretch, obviously everybody's drawn to scoring. Goal scoring, assists, points, and obviously Forsberg and both Neil are doing that. But it all starts with the guy on the net. Pecorino has been unbelievable, and he was unbelievable on the road trip. Obviously, didn't get the he didn't get the start in Winnipeg, which was one of the losses that was on the road trip. But the game in Dallas, obviously you're going up against Sagan, Ben, Spezza, even Daly in the back. I mean, those guys can. I mean, they score a lot. I mean, Sagan already has a hat trick this year, and if Pekka's in that, if not in that net, and I say if Carter Hutton's in the net that night, they're not getting that win. I mean, that third period was all Pecorine, vintage Pecorine, just absolutely dominating, nothing going by him, and I think that definitely stems from his success. And obviously, if you have good goaltending, that sends confidence for the guys in front of him. But yeah, I mean, Forsberg and Pekka definitely are the MVP, so to speak, for this stretch, and quite frankly, the entire season.
Yeah. Well, the thing I noticed coming down the stretch in the last two games of the road trip in Dallas and in St. Louis is that Pecorine was so on point. Did not let in any of the. Didn't give him anything. He had to make a couple of acrobatic saves like we've seen him do in the past. He looked really good, especially in those tight games. He made some unbelievable saves, and the big thing I saw about a Philip Forsberg is the one memorable goal. I think that this was in Dallas. It was on the power play, and Forsberg just corrals the puck in the slot, and then it just unloads an absolute bullet over the right shoulder. I think it must have been Lettinen in net.
Yeah.
And it was I sort of had to just sort of sit back and say like, whoa, that kind of sniper ability Nashville hasn't seen in such a long time, and to finally see that is just it's a welcomed sight. Certainly, I personally, in my opinion, for the Forsberg-Neal combination has been the best as the best 1-2 punch the Predators have had since another Forsberg put on the uniform wearing number 21, Peter Forsberg with Paul Kariya for about half a season in 2001. 2007, actually, 2007.
David Poyle was on radio yesterday, and he was talking about the 2 goals scored in the St. Louis game, how they were goal scorers, goals. And if you actually start to think back to this whole trade to get James Neal, so far, it really has been a win-win. I think the James Neals fit right in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
And one other thing I saw that this is sort of when crunching the numbers is looking at Forsberg's stats with Neal and without Neal. This will be in an article coming soon. A little shameless plug there, but Philip Forsberg, when he's on the ice with James Neal, has I think it was a Corsi 4 rating of something around 58%, and when he's not on the ice with Neal, it plummets to about 46. Which is it's incredible. The chemistry between them has been so good. You're mentioning the drop pass back to Neal, and I think that must have been in the St. Louis game. It was just absolutely beautiful. He knew exactly where he was going to be, and then Neal just unloaded another snipe. It was just pure. It was magical almost. The two of them together is like I say, a match made in Corsi heaven.
And for those of you who don't understand what Corsi stats are, let me just fill in the gap. Science stuff happens.
Yeah. Yes. It's calculators and stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of numbers and number crunching, but it's really not. It's kind of simple. But yeah. Speaking of Forsberg, the one goal he had against Dallas where the power play actually awoke from the depths of hell for the Predators in the Dallas game. His power play goal. I think it was Yossi to pass it off to him, kind of in the left, kind of near the hash marks, and he kind of faked because he was going to kind of drop back. He was like, all right, these guys aren't watching me. I'm just going to do what I want, and he kind of went back towards the net and sent the wrister past Lettinen. It was just like, it was like what? I mean, it was so nonchalant and so easy looking. And even I've noticed, this is kind of goofy, but like even after he scored, he's just kind of like, all right, this bump, like it's natural, like I mean, his confidence is through the roof, and even. I haven't, obviously they've been on the road, so I haven't talked to Forsberg in, 2.5 weeks. But even back then, about 2.5 weeks ago, I mean, the confidence the kid shows and just the classiness and just the good guy he is, I mean, it just shows on and off the ice. And I think, it's benefiting him waves and waves and waves, as longer than anybody that I think anybody expected for sure. Yeah. But, he's got 15 points, 14 games, leads rookies. I think definitely if the season ended, you have to hand him the Calder Trophy. I don't think that there's any question about that. Obviously, Pearson in LA has put up some goal numbers, but his plus 15 rating is like, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, you look at a 20-year-old kid on the ice on the top line, and they're not getting scored on at all when he's on the ice. To
Yeah.
be realistic.
Yeah.
So I mean, with that being said, is he the MVP for the Predators at this point? If you had to hand an MVP trophy to somebody today, would you hand it to him?
I think you have to. There's been no one else. Everyone has played pretty well, even if it's not showing up on the score sheet. Even Seth Jones, who has been somewhat quiet, has been playing pretty well. Jokinen has been playing pretty well, even though he hasn't had a point so far. Derek Roy has been a little bit quiet, but he's been playing well. Philip Forsberg has been just off the charts good so far this year. He's scoring at a pace that is unheard of for someone his age and for someone that anyone on the Predators really in a while. My favorite tweet I saw, this was during the Dallas game from Patton from Cellblock 303. He said, since Martin Erat was traded for Forsberg, he scored 8 goals. Since Forsberg ate lunch on Sunday, he's had 4. That trade is beginning to look like one of the worst trades in history for the Washington Capitals.
Yeah, I see. I think Philip Forsberg is probably the guy to pick as like an MVP to this point, but I still, to play sort of a devil's advocate, Pekka Rinne is still the man.
Yeah.
And anytime I always, if you want to get into like put yourself as like an armchair GM, I would always structure my team from the net, defense, forward. It's all about solidifying things so you can get forward. And Pekka Rinne, this team can't do what it does offensively if you don't have a rock and an anchor in the back, and then that's what Pekka Rinne's been so far this season.
Yeah, definitely. You know, another guy that's kind of stuck out as of late, especially on the road trip, speaking of defense, has played really well, is Matthias Ekholm. I mean, how good does – he looks unbelievable compared to last year. I mean, he's noticeable out there on the ice in the offensive zone, which is what you want from defense. You don't want them noticing the defensive zone, just make the play, get the puck out. But offensively, he's been looking really, really good. I mean, he's getting a little bit of power play time. I mean, he's looked really, really good.
Yeah, he's sort of been hasn't really not touched the score sheet yet, but he's looked pretty solid so far. Certainly a far cry from what we saw last year. Last year on the bottom of the defense, they were sort of rotating Bartley in there too. It wasn't fantastic, but he's looked pretty good so far. He's been solid. He's a big boy too, and while Volchenkov's been out, he's been stepping up quite well.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But yeah, Ekholm's kind of a guy that's kind of caught my eye as of late, especially on that road trip. So we've kind of talked about Neal. He's played really well. He's been fun to watch, especially. I mean, everyone on the top line has been really fun to watch. So let's go back to the summer. There was a guy named Jason Spezza, the name we don't talk of in Nashville.
He who must not be named.
We might be able to talk to him after like the end of the season when he has 30 points and Neal has 75 or something. But Neal has 11 points through 14 games. Spezza has 13 points in 14 games. So let's go back to the draft day. We've probably all seen the video where David Poyle, he's whispering. He's like, all right, we'll do James Neal for Patrick Hornfist, da-da-da-da. So, and Nick Spalling. I don't want to single you out there, Nick Spalling. You were part of it too. Anyway, so that day, obviously, there's rumors and all that Poyle offered again for Spezza. Almost had him, but he was like, nah, I don't want to go to Nashville. Who do you take today? Do you take James Neal or do you take Jason Spezza?
I take James Neal because I don't want a guy who's like, I don't want to go to Nashville. You want someone who, it doesn't matter where you play, you just want someone who wants to be a part of the team. You want someone who doesn't have his own little agenda of what team can make me play better rather than what team can I make play better. And that's what James Neal's sort of like. It sort of was like, I think James Neal, when the Predators got him, was at like a wedding, so it's sort of like he's like in a BFF system with Evgeny Malkin, and he just gets sideswiped by the steal, and it's not like there's any lingering effects of him joining the Predators, really. There was a little slow start from him, maybe goal scoring, but now he's back to himself, and he's a part of this team, I think, and looking really good. There's just something that annoys me about certain players who it is a bit more about how can the team make me better? How can I be better insulated by certain people? It's something you see almost more in like European soccer, where it's more about the team that I join rather than what can I do to make a team better? And
Yeah.
I feel like Dallas was on this sort of, you know, sort of rolling ball effect, just picking up pieces during the summer, and he just wanted to latch on to it.
Yeah, and speaking of Dallas, I mean, they've lost 7 in a row. I mean, with the talent that they have up front on their first 2 lines, and Lettinen, he's a top 10 goalie in the league, but he hadn't really looked at it this season. Obviously, he's battled a couple injuries, a concussion, and stuff like that. But they
See,
look awful.
the Stars have what I like to call EOS, Edmonton Oilers syndrome. They have an incredible amount of offensive talent up front. They have Spezza, Ben, Sagan, Hemsky. But where's the defense? The defense is just non-existent. Kari Lettinen's been fine. Kari Lettinen is a fine goaltender. But the defense doesn't. It pretty much doesn't exist. But quite like what the Edmonton Oilers have, they have Taylor Hall, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Nail Yakupov, all this top offensive talent. They're just saying Steve Dangle was mentioning this before. It's the defense. It's not there. When defense is non-existent, winning doesn't happen. That's the bottom line. And for the Dallas Stars, that's sort of coming to roost here for them.
Well, they just got rid of Sergei Gonchar for Travis Moen, so that gets rid of like a 40-year-old defenseman there. And I brought up before we started this show that if you look back to their great history, they acquired a great defenseman by the name of Alex Goligoski at the cost of James Neal and Matt Niskanen. So, I mean, even if you look to that department, if they're looking to add a defenseman, they have a great track record of, not giving up a whole lot for a defenseman.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised, if they might have a deal up their sleeve, maybe with somebody in the league to maybe get one of those, top defensemen, which they don't have. Trevor Daley, I mean, you saw him score that goal against Nashville, and the guy should be a forward. I mean, he's like Dustin Byfuglien, where he can do it all.
He's more of the he's a bigger version of someone like Erik Karlsson, I would think. And he's sort of a Ryan Ellis kind of type, Torrey Krug. But going back to the Spezza versus Neal question, I think it's a bit of a twist of fate that Niskanen and Neal were traded together, and Neal was at Niskanen's wedding when he found out he got traded and traded to the Predators. And based on what I've seen and everything I've seen about James Neal, and whether it's into the Beneath the Ice videos or anything like that, he has totally embraced what Nashville is. He's totally embraced the culture. He's totally embraced the people. He's buying a new house. He's settling here with his family. He's totally embracing the lifestyle. And that's what you alluded to this. That's exactly what you like to see out of a player that comes through like this. Because if they're sort of have their own agenda, then they're not going to play well. If they're a me person, then it just can't work for you. That's why you take Neal over Spezza, because if Spezza at any point wouldn't want to waive his no trade clause to come here, then why bring him here? Unless he had a change of heart and says suddenly, oh, I love Nashville, then it's fine. I mean, granted, Nashville and Dallas are both southern cities, both have fantastic food cultures and everything like that. But it's if someone has it out for Nashville, like it appears Spezza did, then why even bother? With it? And if I remember correctly, the reports were that Poile tried for Spezza first.
Yeah.
Found out he wouldn't waive his no trade clause, so then he immediately turned to Jim Rutherford, wherever the GM was at that point for the Penguins, and sort of like, hey, is Neal still on the block for you guys? And that's how it sort of pulled off. So I give David Poile major props for that, because it sort of showed like, oh, Spezza's not going to come here. We'll just get another top six forward. Like it's almost saying like you're nothing special. We're not going to like pout over you or anything like that, because he didn't even say that Spezza spurned them. It came out in media reports, and that's the kind of thing that you like to see out of Poile. It's sort of like go like we don't need you. You're nothing special to us. We just wanted a forward, and we got it. But going back to the whole I'll use an example from a little old movie came out a couple years ago called Goon, starring Sean William Scott and Xavier Laflamme in that movie.
Yeah.
He was all for the 99% of the movie. He was all about him. He wanted to do his thing. He wanted to score goals. He wanted to do everything fancy. But he wasn't a team person. He just walked over the logo in the locker room. But by the end of the movie, after Doug Glatt inspires him, he becomes a team person and gets his groove back essentially. And so when you have a Xavier Laflemme in the locker room, it's poison. It's absolute poison.
So what we're saying is Sean Williams Scott to Dallas fixed.
Yeah, definitely. I can't believe I used a goon reference in an actual podcast. Cannot believe it.
But let's put Daniel on the spot, since we all know he's a Pittsburgh fan and a Predators fan, obviously. But say Patrick Hornqvist was a Vancouver Canuck. He's not affiliated with the Predators at all. Would you rather have James Neal today on the Penguins, or would you rather have Hornqvist? Which, I mean, he's obviously been putting up some decent numbers in Pittsburgh.
Well, I actually think that ends up becoming a difference between whether you want a winger for Malkin or you want a winger for Crosby. And Crosby's always been the type of person who, I mean, I feel like prior to this season, his best wingers are two guys who you wouldn't associate with a top line for your wingers. He makes guys like Pascal Dupuis and Chris Kunitz top line wingers, and that's the type of player he is. So what happens when you take a guy like Patrick Hornqvist and put him with Crosby? You're seeing it. It's kind of scary that how good Crosby's been. He had 5 assists in his last game. That's what he does. So James Neal and Malkin, when they were on the ice together, it was this crazy good chemistry. I always loved that they used to do what I just always referred to as the quarterback play, where Malkin would win a faceoff and Neal is already in the shooting position right behind the faceoff, and his wrist shot just woof, and it would go in just right off the faceoff. He doesn't so much have that, but when you got the type of offense you do with Hornqvist, with Crosby, I think it doesn't really matter. I would go with Hornqvist for him right now, because Hornqvist is another similar type player where he does so many other things for other players.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can't. I don't think you can really go wrong with that, to be honest. But yeah. So
it's almost like which top line do you want? Do you want the Crosby Hornqvist top line, or do you want the Malkin Neal top line? It's like picking between gold and silver. It's like, it's both pretty. You know, whatever you want.
Yeah.
The idea of picking a Pittsburgh Penguin power play, who you want to put out there, has got to just be a laugh.
Yeah.
Oh,
pull out of a hat, whatever's good.
It's like, do we even need a defenseman on the point?
Whatever.
Yeah, look, Pittsburgh, they caught that hot streak right after beating Nashville. I mean, they beat up Nashville pretty good in Nashville, and after that, I mean, they skyrocketed. They've been playing great hockey. But Milwaukee is another team that's been playing. You like that segue there? Pittsburgh been playing good. Milwaukee's been playing well. So Milwaukee's looking really good. They're in second. I think they're currently in second, correct, Daniel? In their division?
Yeah, only behind the Rockford Ice Hogs, who have played more games than us. But I mean, we're 8-2 in 10 games, so that's not that bad. And the team that's in front of us, Rockford, we're going to be playing twice this weekend. We're playing tomorrow night against the Iowa Wild, who literally just fired their head coach. So that, not sure what we're going to get out of that game, but I can tell you that the 2 games we played with Iowa this season, they look awful. Very like a team like Milwaukee this year to last year, you get this influx of new talent. I don't know what goes on with Minnesota, if they just, the players that they kind of accumulate through the draft or whatever and scouting, most of them just end up in Minnesota. You sort of see that with like Arakawa. I don't think he was really in the AHL for that long. He's just up there. Michael Granlund, of course, NHL. So
yeah,
the people who are down there for Iowa are Grabeck? I don't know. There's not many people there. And so I don't have much concerns with tomorrow night, and with how much rest the Admirals have had. They only played 1 game this weekend, and the game before that was all the way on last Sunday, or 2 weeks Sunday now.
Yeah.
So they've been sort of sitting down and not playing that much, but saw the result of that. This 1 weekend game that we had, it wasn't sort of a rust thing. It was they're completely full of energy, and I've never seen them pass so well. It was like they were playing keep away the entire game. Everyone was just linking up, and even if they missed a pass, they would skate back, just get the puck and keep passing. The speed hasn't stopped for the Admirals. The the lone real downer from the entire weekend was when Victor Stahlberg got injured, which, of course, made the whole news waves for you guys because he was just 1 day away from going straight back up and joining the Predators. And that last game, as great as it was for us, because it was 4-0 shutout with Magnus Hellberg, who's on a tear right now, that was sort of the thing that just kind of soured it a little bit, because Stahlberg was just getting better and better and better, and I would have loved to see him just carry that into Nashville because he hasn't had a real good string of any type of performance since he joined Nashville. But he looked like he was on the road to doing that. And Brennan Evans of the Grand Rapids Griffins caught him with a hip check low. And Poyle said that it might be a 4 to 6 weeks injury. I think they said that they might have an update today with MRI results. I don't know if that's going to be made available anytime soon, if it's already available. But if it's only 4 to 6 weeks, that they dodged a bullet, because that looked like from when he got hit to when he was getting off the ice, I thought he might have blown his knee out.
Yeah, he's not having the best of luck. And then obviously Poyle was also on 102.5 the game yesterday and mentioned that Mike Fisher could be back in 2 weeks, which is, they at the start of after his surgery they said around Thanksgiving would be a timetable, and 2 weeks is a little bit before Thanksgiving, so he's a little ahead of deadline, I guess you could say, or ahead of his timeline, and it'll be interesting to see what he does. He's been skating with the team probably. I mean, he traveled with the team this week. Obviously, he wasn't dressed or anything, but he traveled with the team on the plane and all that, and he's been practicing with the team for a little while. So with him coming back in 2 weeks and then Stahlberg coming back in 4 to 6 weeks, I mean, there's some decisions to be made for sure with the coaching staff, which I kind of think that I almost think it's a good thing that these guys are, kind of coming back slowly. It kind of keeps guys on their toes. Last year with Trotz, it wasn't, you almost had a sense, you had this line, what this guy's going to do, da-da-da-da. It was just over and over and over, and, kind of keeping the guys on their toes, battling for positions. I mean, that doesn't do anything but good things, in my opinion, getting the guys worked up, ready to go, hey, let me fight for my position. Obviously, I don't think the top line has to worry about anything, but other than that, I mean, the guys are pretty wide open. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there for sure. So, the Preds play again tonight. They play the Edmonton Oilers, who, again, are on a winning streak since we played them again last, I guess it was about a week and a half ago where we beat them 4-1. Yeah, 4-1 in Edmonton. And, yeah, they've won 2 in a row. They just beat Buffalo and the Rangers, which Buffalo, obviously that's not the biggest deal, but going into Madison Square Garden beating the Rangers is a pretty solid win. So let's hear some predictions for the game tonight. Another note, Colin Wilson won't be playing. I think he's battling an upper body injury. He's just listed as day-to-day, so he won't be in tonight. I guess Yarncroc will be in, and Bork would slide in. Bork would slide in. Obviously, the lines could be different than what we saw 3 days ago. But what else is new? What's y'all's predictions?
Yeah, I'm calling a 3-1 Predators victory. I think they've just been so hot lately. I think Predators goals. I'm going to be very specific here. Predators goals from Forsberg, Neal, and Roy, and an Edmonton goal from Benoit Pouliot. I think the Predators have been too hot to lose to Winnipeg, to be honest. I mean, last time I saw the Predators at home playing Edmonton was Thanksgiving Day last season,
Same.
when they just got demolished by the Oilers. It was probably the most boring game I have ever witnessed in my entire life. It was just absolutely atrocious. Predators couldn't buy a shot on net, and they gave Ilya Bryzgalov a shutout. That's when you know you've hit sort of rock bottom, was when you give Ilya Bryzgalov, in his first professional start in however many months, give him a shutout. And he also took down Stahlberg too.
Yep. Yeah.
It's his only game. Why you
have to be mean?
I think tonight we're gonna pick up a 4-1 win. I think the way the team's rolling right now, even if you got a knock there, and Yarncroc is a guy I'm almost expecting to almost be sent to Milwaukee on just a basis to get him going, because he's still yet to score a point.
Yeah.
That's still a good thing to have on the ice. I mean, he's such a good player. He's going to get it going eventually. but 4-1 win tonight. I don't know who I'd roll out for goal scorers, but I guarantee you that Forsberg is going to score at least one more point-a-game player right now.
Yeah. Well, let me just say, with my goal predictions, last time I predicted a game like this, it was Penguins Predators in Nashville. The game, the Predators lost 3-0. I said goals from Crosby, Malkin, and Dupuis. And guess what? Crosby, Malkin, and Dupuis. So I'm pressing my luck. I'm pressing my luck today.
If you're 2-0, we'll have to get you or something.
I'm psychic or something.
Yeah, but I'll go with a 2-0 shutout by the Preds, and Olli Jokinen is going to be on the goal scoring sheet tonight. He's going to score his first goal as a Nashville Predator, kind of throw the monkey off the back. He's played well, he's putting a lot of shots on net, stuff like that. But I think he's going to light the lamp tonight. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see him, a guy with that hair needs to get on the scoring sheet quicker than he has.
Definitely.
That hair is going to be the first star of the game tonight, regardless.
Yeah, for sure.
Almost beats Lane Lambert's.
Definitely. But anyway, before I turn it over to Cutler to sign us off in his signature way, be sure to follow us at Predlines NSH, my personal account, at the MC Harris Show. Be sure and follow Daniel at Ads Roundtable and Dr_Lavender. Follow my buddy Cutler Klein at Cutler Klein, Klein, and Cutler, sign us off.
Good night, Western Canada.